I want to start off by saying it's allergy season for me. This is the first decently hot day with lots of sunshines. Um, no, it's not. That's the point. The stuff keeps growing most of the year. The stuff that I'm allergic to most is alfalfa. It carries on the wind, especially when it's in bloom. They feed this stuff to horses, and lots of people have horses around here, you know? So, yeah, I'm having problems a little bit breathing. I was able to drink something warm with caffeine in it to try to open up my throat, and I coughed up some nastiness. So, I guess that's a whole full minute of grossness. Um, we're going to get to John Adams. We, the people of the United States of America. Maybe I should read that entire document for you. Um, we're in a real predicament here. The government really ain't doing much about the police getting away with doing whatever they want. We have come to the point where we do have the technology. We have had the technology since, oh crap, sorry. We've had the technology since the 1990s for police officers to carry body cameras and have them on them at all times. The problem is we're not doing that, and it's costing more money, all right, than it would take to actually fix that problem to begin with. Zeta Atkinson, all right, how much? $125,000, right? Somebody was telling me I was wrong about that. They're like, no, he got 165,000. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Now, if they hadn't screwed up like that, how many body cameras would that get them? Let's type this up here. Now, you guys talking about, I don't understand why everybody's got to be such a pussy and get offended all the goddamn time. Because people are fucking dying, asshole. You don't find that offensive? Oh, fuck no. Most of you got fucking TVs that you watch this as entertainment. Most of you. Like, holy shit, I am fucking. Why am I freaked out by people? Most of the people who offered to help me are into that shit. Like, oh my god. You're into such sick, disgusting, and disturbing aspects of human life, and you dwell on that shit. And then when people have hell that they have gone through with that stuff in their real lives, and you guys just want to jump in there and do this drama thing, I'm like, I don't need drama, I need help. I need people to actually understand. Now, this video is actually something that I wanted to explain about Horatio Nelson. No, he's not American, is he? It is right to learn from your enemies. And the British are not our enemies right now, are they? I say right now because all throughout history, people get offended by stupid stuff. The stuff that you guys go to war and kill thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people for, like, the poor don't get to do that. They get to fight your wars over your petty shit. But when they have serious shit in their own life, well, I don't care about that. You owe me. I am sick and tired of listening to a government who tells every single citizen, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me. No matter how much you give, they want more, 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 more. We want more of your life. Now, the Roman rental agreement, that was an agreement where you were basically slaves. Matter of fact, most Roman citizens were a little bit better off than citizens elsewhere of the day, but they're also still very much worse off than the slaves in the Roman Empire. And that really sounds screwed up, doesn't it? But that made it so that just a few landowners a few select landowners could basically have the monopoly on every single piece of land. There was nowhere for other people to live. They had to live in rentals. And how many people today live in rentals? How many people today can actually afford to live in their own house, to buy their own house? And then you're looking at the fact that renting costs 3 times per month what it's going to cost you to buy a place per month when you go out and finance it, that you're actually paying out anyway. But then you have to make an investment of living in that area for 25 to, well, the rest of your life. So basically, you're giving yourself a life sentence by trying to pay off that mortgage, which, a lot of them are up to 40 years. What does this have to do with Admiral Nelson? All right, so this guy took part in a lot of battles. He also fought with a lot of different characters. He was also very aggressive. And the Navy at the time that he had was huge and massive. And look at all that it did for the British Empire. And then look at the fact that America basically overtook Britain, because there's no way in hell, with all of the resources that Britain has worldwide, they could not outpace us. They could never possibly outpace us when it comes to it. And so they had to step down and they had to give up their empire worldwide. They still got a navy, but I mean, that was the thing with Churchill. He wanted to do all these fights elsewhere in British colonies, And I understand, go liberate everybody else who's part of your guys first. These are our guys, or go defend them first. But also a lot of it had to do to keep colonies that later we come to realize didn't really want to be a part of the British Empire, and a lot of the things that we were being told were not true. And that did continue until after World War II. And the same thing with the French. They continued to lose colonies elsewhere, where they were basically telling people what to do, but not giving back to those people what they promised. Most of those places rebelled, and you say that the United States is the only country that has ever won its independence from Britain through war. That's not true. There's a lot of different ways to fight a war. There's a lot of different aspects to war. Some of those places won against Great Britain just by refusing to trade and being too far away for, well, Britain, with all of its diminished crap after the war. They had plenty of stuff they could have gone over and taken over all their own stuff again, and they didn't. Thank goodness that what people saw there at places like Nuremberg and Dachau. Imagine that. You have that whole Nazi thing going down, and you see what they did to. And I want to impress upon you that these extermination camps were not just for Jews. Okay, these were for people with non-Aryan features. Completely different concept. We say that it was just Jews. There were, most of the ones with Jewish names were sent to very specific ones. Yes, that is true. There were just Jewish extermination camps, but there were a lot of them that were just straight up extermination camps for anybody without Aryan features. A lot of these countries, Germany would go through and they would steal the children that looked like they had particular Aryan features, and then we're going to come back to Germany and we're going to teach you guys the proper way to think and the proper way to feel and the proper way to live. This is how we're going to live. This is how the Nazi Empire functioned, and this is how we function today. And when it comes to taking care of yourself, most of you guys are completely dependent upon the government, and myself as well. I mean, if I had my own land, We haven't had that since, well, when was the last time that existed in the United States? It used to be that it was small communities, your family. You would interact with people at the next town over, like here in Lodgepole. And then somebody got the big idea in their head that they could manipulate others. Some of them through using manipulation, some of them through inventing gods to worship and claiming God's demands. Some of them in promising love and brotherhood and unity. Some of them for telling the poor who have been basically the manipulated. And they're not just manipulated through their food and their trade and that nature. They're also manipulated by armed thugs all throughout history. The Romans were not nice to really anybody. And there are many things that we talk about that are great about the Roman Empire. No, the Roman Empire was shit. Even the Roman Republic was shit. Really, out of all of the stuff that we talk about Greek democracy, we're not even talking about Greek democracy. This is a separation of a whole bunch of different city states. This is like Boulder being its own country, and Denver being its own country, and Longmont being its own country. But they're the Boulder League because Boulder is, the Boulder County could be where is basically the center of all that. And with those towns, it really would be. You might call it the Denver League as well. You never know. But the fact is that they weren't huge armies like a lot of other places were, and a lot of Roman cities would fight each other. It's like Boulder having to send a whole bunch of citizens out to protect Boulder because Denver decided that it had a minor disagreement over, well, one of our princesses got pregnant by one of your slaves, and we want that slave's head, and we want our princess back so we can take her head. And they go, well, we don't have her. We don't have Mayor Dumbass's daughter. Are you fucking kidding? Dude, we're like 1/20th of your fucking size. Yeah, we're not going to do shit like that, first of all. And second of all, you think, well, Boulder wouldn't have slaves. That is totally not true. You show up on vacation and stay on probation. It's so messed up. A lot of travelers, they tell them, go to Boulder. People will accept you there, And you go there, and it is so true. But the cops and the rich people, they run stuff. They run things, just like everywhere else. And we like to pretend that Boulder is liberal. Boulder is very liberal as far as many of the people who are there and in that county think. But then when you take a look at the city council, we're not really actually talking about liberal people at all. When you look at the way that the homeless are treated, how we treat our poor, oh my God. Now, with Admiral Nelson, he was a son of a bitch. But he's one of those people who's there in the annals of history because of the he did against all of these armies. And they were, great and glorious battles. And this is what we talk about him. But then again, it's when you listen to those things and you hear about the terrible things that happen to people and the terrible things that many of these people did, sacrifices that they made, did we really need to make those sacrifices over such trivial shit because some rich people got offended? And then poor people, they say, oh, you poor people, you need to stop getting offended at everything. Are you fucking kidding me? You guys, fucking rich ass bitches, want to tell me what not to get offended by and what to get offended by. Meanwhile, my loved ones are being killed in extremely large numbers and falsely imprisoned and falsely accused and tortured by law enforcement. And we have the ability with these body cameras to make it so that those things don't happen. But we also have to create legislation so that these officers can't abuse their power and use their slander that they're allowed to put on every police computer in America through their slander. And it stays on there unless the person who they said that slander against is able to defend themselves in court. It is different to have charges dropped than it is to be able to actually defend yourself in court. I needed a victory. That means I need to be allowed to show evidence. And through all of this, it has become something that is too big for anyone to handle. And that's something that people just aren't understanding. No one person is going to be able to do all this, especially with, first of all, my income. Now, the thing is, I'm glad that I have that income, but I have to spend that to take care of myself. And I haven't had that since Natalie died until about 2 months ago. And I'm glad for it. I'm not bitching and being ungrateful for it. What I'm bitching about is the hell that I continue to have to go through and the fact that I will never be allowed non stay in court. The courts don't look at any of the stuff that I post up here. Oh, that is quite gravy. Lovely. My connections unstable. I'm always paranoid of flies flying into my drink. I put a box of raisins on top of them. That's something about being poor. Sometimes they give you stacks. You eat them as you can, even if they're gross. Lucky for me, these ones aren't too bad. They're not hard as a rock like the last box I was given. They gave it to me like 2 months ago, and it expired on, I'm gonna say, December of 2014. I'm like, oh man. See, and I didn't even look at that until I'd already put it in my mouth. I didn't bother to squeeze them to see if they were. Could see, I woke up and I puked, and I didn't have anything to chug it down with, so I took some water and spit it out, and I was gonna eat some raisins to kind of get the taste of bile out of my mouth. And like I was in such a hurry to try to get the flavor out of my mouth that I basically crunched into these things, but I can't because I don't have any teeth. In the Boulder incident with Waylon Lolatai, they claimed that I had a weapon. That was their excuse. They claimed that I tried to bite them. That was their excuse. And yeah, I was yelling at them. They were fucking hurting me. They weren't listening. Natalie was missing and probably dead. And by that point, yeah, I had known probably most of that day that she was dead. Sarah Rubiolo was the one who let me know for sure. I mean, before that, it kept on going back and forth, and I didn't have access to the news. It was just fucking people get on hold of me on Facebook. And then people hated me so much because of the slander that, I mean, I had thousands of people coming at me and trying to make sure that I literally couldn't show evidence or speak. I wasn't allowed a public forum. I wasn't allowed to speak when it mattered most. Or Zaid Atkinson got to speak, and he got to have his own place to be in, and he had support. He was not made homeless. He didn't have every tool that he needed to be able to defend himself taken away from him. Now, Samuel Leon Lawrence IV, yeah, they fucked him up. Same officer who did it to me, Waylon Lolatai. But you know what? Police are sly. When they want to assume that you did something wrong and you're smarter than them and they fucking know it, and you're trying to explain to them that you're trying to turn in police, fuck yeah, they get scared, same as anybody else. Now, before all this, people are like, dude, fucking, I thought you were one of the smartest people I knew. That's what they tell me now. I'm like, See, that's the thing, is that I am intelligent. But at the same time, when I didn't tell you that I was autistic, you didn't notice because I am very good at masking it. But not when I'm under an extreme amount of stress. Then I get overwhelmed and I shut down. And there's things that you guys just don't want to understand about that. And when we look at a lot of the heroes throughout history, the peacekeepers are my favorites. There's a reason that although Malcolm X, his tactics, and Black Panther Party for self-defense, their tactics, those tactics actually worked. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did not. However, that's the one that we want to focus on the most. Why? Why is he my favorite hero of the 20th century? Because he did it peacefully. Yes, he absolutely fucking broke the law because he had to, and he was willing to sit his time. And I'm willing to sit mine. The problem is that I need people to look at all of the things that these predators did to me and understand that I had been trying this whole time to get someone to actually go in with me. Help me with this recording stuff. Help me go through this stuff. I am completely over my head since before Natalie was killed with having to deal with people being violent and being assholes and not listening. Why? Because I'm a male. Because of my age. Because of my gender. Because of the way I look. How many of y'all can't understand that? Like, I know so many women who are like, you know, I just hate that men always fucking hit on me all the time. They just want to fucking keep on giving me shit, and I hate it. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You are an extremely attractive individual. The more free stuff you get, the better looking you are. That is how our society works. That is the gift-giving thing. Oh, I think she's pretty. You're in 3rd grade and you think she's pretty, so you go get her a flower. And it's sweet back then, right? Cute, how adorable. But then you're the prettiest girl in school and every dude wants you, and you have to deal with a whole bunch of drama because every dude in school is absolutely 100% dead in love with you, and they do a bunch of crazy shit because of hormones. And I'm like, you know, I'm past all that shit. I'm having to deal with people who are going through that shit, and that's what you're not understanding. I mean, these guys are going through that phase in their lives with their hormones and all that. I have been well past that for a good 15 or more years. Okay, I never really was into that. I still had hormones. I just don't have interest in certain things. Like, I don't want to exchange bodily fluids with you. I'm not trying to be an asshole by saying that. I just think it's gross. Hello, Nima. Hello, by Starlight. So, man, it just fucking stinks like alfalfa. I don't know if you guys can hear my voice getting more scratchy, but yeah, earlier I hawked up some nastiness that just, oh my God. And no, I don't got the Rona. It's definitely alfalfa. I know what alfalfa smells like. I encountered my first fit of I thought I was going to fucking die here in Chapel, Nebraska. My first visit here when the alfalfa field south of the low income here in the south part, it's duplexes. It's literally right next to an alfalfa field, and that about fucking killed me. And I didn't go to a hospital, but I should have. There was a humidifier, and I know where the humidifier was. I made myself a little tent, and I put the humidifier in there and put a sheet up, and then I also got yelled at for having the sheet up because it got soaked because of the humidifier, but I coughed up so much fucking nastiness. And also the humidifier makes the whole house hot. I don't know how many of y'all are aware of that. But there's a lot of people, you got two separate opinions, right? Instead of yelling your opinions back and forth at each other, This is my opinion. No, this is my opinion. And then you're screaming it back and forth. You're not talking like human beings. You're not stopping and listening to the other side. You're not getting to know them. I know so many people who are racist white people who, first of all, don't even realize that they're racist. But that's because they don't understand. They make excuses when it happens to somebody else because they don't have to go through it. And also, in a lot of these people's cases, they think it's because of their color that they're being treated this way. Like whenever a white person has to go through these things that Black Lives Matters is bitching about, whenever these happen to white people do the same thing that black people are doing in these groups. They're going, hey, but you guys don't give a shit when it happens the other way around with white people. And then black folks will go, what about this right here? And I'm like, see, those are both situations that two different groups are pointing out with two different white people who had to go through different shit. And one of them, a rich white kid, gets magic leniency. And this other one, a poor white kid, gets fucked. A poor white kid gets killed, and people are like, all right, well, that's not really that big of a deal. But a college kid at CU gets killed by the police, and people are like, all right, those officers, what happened to them? They killed a white guy, and they got charged with manslaughter. Those officers who had assaulted me just a couple months earlier. Do I know for certain that it was those officers? Well, maybe we should look at the body cameras, because the body cameras will show. It'll show exactly which officers are involved in that. And in the jails, which is where that scenario would have taken place and started, there are all sorts of cameras in the facility. They need sound on at all times in those facilities, not just cameras and not just pointed into a couple of areas. No, they need to be able to know what is going on. If officers are doing things that are illegal, they need to curtail it and stop it. But the other thing is that their superiors know that they're doing illegal stuff. When you go to jail, you are guilty until proven innocent. That is how the guards treat you. If you have enough money for bail, then you don't get treated that way. And then you are not tortured into submission. And that's what they try to do. Oh, you're in jail? We're going to torture you into giving up. Or we're going to force you into an impossible position where you can plead guilty here, so you can get out and possibly get an honest date over here. Hello, pardon me, passing gas. I'm sorry about that. That was rude. Social etiquette, though, between exploding and farting, I don't give a fuck about your social etiquette. But I'm sorry you were offended. That's what sorry means in most cases. See, when I do something wrong, I'm actually sorry. But when you're offended over something that you want to assume the worst about, and I still say I'm sorry, it's because I am sorry that you're offended. You weren't so offended when you did it to me. You weren't so offended enough to do something about it when it happened to me, to understand that I need help, actual help in person. Now, if it happens to you, see how quickly you have people there in person who need help? And instead of, all right, before everybody knew that I was autistic, and they had it all over the news, and then people, strangers, have their own assumptions of it because they don't know or understand it. And then they go, no, we don't need to understand it. We don't need to learn anything about it. And we should be allowed to punish it because we want to remain ignorant. Just like we want to pretend that all homeless people are lazy who don't have a job. Many are disabled. Many of them were disabled for fighting for this country. And PTSD is very real. And you go, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with him. Are you fucking kidding me? You end up wearing the friend next to you, and yeah, your fucking head's gonna be fucked up. Just like when you're a kid and your dad sticks his dick in your ass, it's gonna fuck you up. Did my dad stick his dick in my ass? No, he didn't. A lot of stuff that I say, if I don't put the little explanations to, people jump to too big of a conclusion or too different of a conclusion. I didn't protect my predators like most people did. But later on in life, I just wanted to move on. So I just left it alone. And you know what I learned? When you leave it alone like that, those people will move on too. They'll move on to another victim and another and another and another. And once by their slander, you were already made a target. There are certain things you can say about a person that they never get an honest chance again after that. And when they can call you mentally ill, they don't have to. You have to have someone in your side. Just like if you're a black person going into the police station by yourself, you already know is a bad idea. You got to go talk to a lawyer and you get the same runaround that I do because you're pretty well broke. And you're pretty well broke because of opinion about black people, among people who have money, who are taught that black people are going to steal their stuff. Only because we convict black people at a much higher rate. But most of those black people that we convict were homeless. And then we use that statistic to say, look, see, black people are stealing so much shit. I'm like, oh my God, my stuff has been stolen repeatedly. It is usually a friend or acquaintance who steals your shit. Over piddly stuff, a bad argument, or over them f***ing you over, and then thinking that if they play victim and treat you like shit and have their friends treat you like shit, then magically they didn't do anything wrong. No, you fucking did. And innocent people are being harmed, and the least you can do is tell the fucking truth. Now, we've fought a lot of wars, you know, and we're told that we owe it to the dead, and we owe it to these soldiers, and to these people and those people. And I got to tell you, when we had the Constitution, yes, those soldiers, when we had the Constitution of the United States and it applied to all of us equally, those soldiers, yes, I owe them for my freedom, but I don't have freedom. I always continually owe, no matter where I'm at. You need to gimme. Hold on a second. Leave me the fuck alone. Let me get settled and on my fucking feet. Instead of harming me for being victimized and then going, well, we're not going to the fact that you're victimized or the fact that you went in hundreds of times calmly and collectively to try to show them and get help. And then again, these officers, they don't care. You have to have someone go in with you. I have the dual issue of being both intelligent and disabled. Oh my God. Oh. And a lot of people are like, Sean, you're fucking racist. You hate Black Lives Matters. I'm like, you know what? I'm not racist. When that shit happens to people, I post it up. And there is a lot of it that is racist. And most of it is racist. It's called profiling. And it's allowed to be used. It is. It's fucked up. It's the fact that they just put whoever they want with it. Now, with Ventus, when he got fucking screwed over the way that he did, they wrote down that the suspect was a white guy. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? A white guy from the Ukraine. I'm like, no, Ventus is not. He's not white. But the cops gave the description. They apparently heard what they wanted, which I am used to. Every single case where I was trying to turn in the police, all that the dispatch operator heard was that I wanted to kill myself and a police officer needs to take me to a nuthatch. Excuse the fuck out of me. And you guys don't want to be offended. You want to fucking tear my life apart because you're offended. You think it's okay for these people to do terrible things to me because of all of these things that you want to say, oh, well, we shouldn't be allowed to do these things to old people. It should be illegal to do these things to old people or disabled people. But in actuality, really, who gives a shit about them? If nobody gives a shit about Granny in the fucking nursing home, anybody can do whatever they want to her. If some sick fuck intern at a nursing home wants to fuck your granny because nobody cares, nobody goes to visit her, nobody calls, and she gets treated like she's got dementia if she says it's happening. Why? Because who's she saying it to? The other staff in there who are friends with this fucking douchebag. We need to be able to show both sides, and when police investigate, they need to collect evidence from both sides at that point in time instead of torturing innocent people and literally going out of their way not to look at evidence. This isn't just about Natalie. This is about all of the fucked up shit that people did to me because they wanted to assume the worst. And then people were doing actual harm to me, and I'm trying to explain, hey, I'm experiencing the fucked up shit that you're pretending I might do. And these people are going, how do you like it? How do you like it? Motherfucker, I'm not hitting people. For that whole year before Natalie died, show me where I threatened to kill anybody even once. Show me where I assaulted anybody over that. Self-defense is not assault. When you take the victim and lock them up and refuse to look at the evidence, and the police themselves are spreading slander and hearsay, and a lot of these people are like, dude, I don't know how I can help. Fucking all I know is slander and hearsay. Really? That's all the fucking police did? You know more than the fuck they do in these situations. Speak the fuck up, bitch. Well, you know, if the police aren't gonna fucking listen, I can't make them. No, you actually fucking can. You can speak up, and we can fucking subpoena these bitches. I mean, just in the evidence I got right here on my YouTube, the FBI can go through and subpoena a lot of really corrupt offices, a lot of really corrupt situations, in a lot of places. I mean, let's just stop with Aurora, Colorado. There's a lot of black folks there. Black Lives Matter. You care about them, right? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in Denver. There's a lot of them in Jefferson County. There's a lot of them in Arapahoe County. I was in jails. I get to see the statistics with my own two eyes. All right, I'm not telling you bullshit. I'm telling you this is how it is. Yes, there are a shit ton of black people in there. And yes, black people are more likely to be convicted than white people. But it's also the same thing with poverty. If you're a black person that gets bailed out, you got more of a chance of winning your case and not having it completely swept under the rug than somebody who was picked up when they was homeless and the police were just going to throw away their fucking report right in front of you. But you don't know that because you're not in the jail very long because you get bailed out because you're not that broke. This is only happening to black people? No, it's not just happening to black people. Most of the white people in there are under the same situation. 81% of the people incarcerated nationwide in the jails and prisons were homeless when they were picked up. They get railroaded in court, and then you go, look at how bad the homeless are. Look at all the crimes the homeless commit. No, absolutely not. When you're railroaded in court because nobody cares, because people can go, oh, look, see, this percentage of the mentally ill or this percent of the homeless are mentally ill, or this percentage of the homeless are addicts. You commit to the number of addicts in houses. Seriously, tell me that. How many of y'all are fucked up on pills all the goddamn time? How many of y'all are fucked up on alcohol? As soon as you get off of work, you pick up a beer, and by the end of the night, you're on brandy. How many of y'all are just straight chugging off of a Skull bottle? During Admiral Nelson's Navy, first of all, they imprisoned people from other ships. They'd pull over a merchant. This is why Admiral Nelson, who was a great hero, had to fight all these battles against all these other nations is because the British were stealing people. And the British were stealing people because pirates were stealing the British. Now, if you look at the pirates of Algiers versus the pirates of the Caribbean in the 1720s, these are not the same people. Not even close. This is pirates of the Barbary Coast, over along the northern coast of Africa and the Cape of Gibraltar, and all throughout all of that area. I mean, that is a major pirate area, and they are basically well, we call them pirates, but they were actually their own nation. They had basically the equivalent of kings and queens of like England and France and Spain, but they called them a different name. So a lot of the battles that Horatio Nelson was fighting, he had superior firepower. And although he had to go from one battle to another, to another, to another, the British shipwrights were pretty damn good, and they were able to flat pack their ships. That's like an IKEA ship, a do-it-yourself. That's the same way that the Carthaginians did it. They'd make a pattern and you make all these parts that are to that exact pattern, and then you custom fit them together. And what we're dealing with today, we got a problem of some people are just too afraid. Admiral Horatio Nelson, when it comes to the battles that he fought, that's where people think that he was great. That's because he charged in. Now, if there was someone who was willing to charge in, and a lot of people want to call the Black Panther Party for self-defense criminals because some of them walked into a federal building and had firearms. So now all of a sudden, everything that they ever did for their communities is evil and wrong. Suddenly, everything that ever happened there, we have to focus on just the few times that something bad happened, and we have to continually talk about that for 30 years and throw that at the general public. Hey, white people, you need to just not pay attention to the Black Panthers because look what they did in Congress. Look what it took to get them that far. Look what it took to get them that far. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I'm not saying that he wasn't steadfast and fucking walked forward. When you look at a naval battle line, it's a line. It's a line fight. You have solidarity and you have solid numbers, that's when you make a difference. When you know how to defend yourself and when you know how to hit them where it counts. There's a lot of battles where Nelson won because other ships just simply didn't engage. And that's the plain and simple of it. Enemy ships just simply refused to engage. If it hadn't been for that exact scenario in 6 different battles with Horatio Nelson, he would not be a hero of shit. By the time he won the battle that he died at, the Battle of Trafalgar, I mean, everybody knew that he was heavily favored to win that. He didn't even have to do it the reckless way that he did. And we say that history favors the victor as well. Well, that's also not true. In Admiral Horatio Nelson's case, his superior officers repeatedly wished to downplay his actions. And the reason that he was a national hero had nothing to do with the Admiralty. It had to do with the soldiers and their word of mouth. See, when you're talking about thousands and thousands of soldiers on ships of the line made of wood, this was before the age of the iron ships. Matter of fact, they just started the Copper Bowen. We're dealing with a a lot of things today that require us to use our brains, to be ingenious. We didn't win the United States from the British through conventional warfare, contrary to popular belief. We won through attrition, through help from the French, and also we got to give the Dutch a lot of credit for their on the war, all there, though it's not something we read about in history books either. All along the eastern seaboard, we had Dutch blockade runners. These guys ran in sloops, pirates. And they kept the British busy. I mean, they kept the British busy more than anyone else. And a lot of times when we write about it in American history, name, first and last name if we're lucky, if we get the captain's name. Unstable connection again. And that's part of why it was important for the bigs in the United States at the time to invoke the pirates or the folklore of the pirates in order to get help and also in order to get the war started. See, a lot of people at the time, they look at the pirates much differently at that time than we do today. Some of them went the very conservative Christian route where they're like, oh, well, they're all a bunch of cutthroats because we're told they're a bunch of cutthroats. The British tell us that these pirates were a bunch of cutthroats, but the pirates themselves and the people who they interacted with show much different. When you look at the evils you say the pirates did, and in some cases, yes, they did do those things. But then you look at the British, and the British absolutely did. So did the Dutch, so did the French, so did the Spanish. One of the things that the crown used for all three of those nations was sex. Sex and money. You apply or you appeal to those two things, and you're good to go. If the crown is willing to send in more ships to a little tiny fucking village in Malta in order to force basically little girls to be prostitutes for these Navy ships that are coming in there, and we just don't want to say anything about it. Well, fine, more's the better. Right? No, that's absolutely wrong. And that was Admiral Nelson's Navy. That's his fucking legacy. Why did he do that shit? He wanted to be the top dog because then you get the most money and you can have the fun with the most girls. And that's how the British Empire has been ran since day one. That is how most of these soldiers were. That is how they drove up morale. You knew that if you got to go ashore, you would. They also write about how these women were appreciative, and that's how you were supposed to explain it at the time. You're Lord. You can impress upon these people to do whatever you want. You have cannons, they have sticks. They like to fish and eat, and you are a brutal fucking killer that is heartless about it. Yeah, you give us your 9-year-olds. You give us your 12-year-olds. You give us your 15-year-olds, whatever they thought was appropriate at the time. I don't care if that's your wife. This is a ship of Her Majesty's Navy or His Majesty's Navy. Did Americans do that? No, we went to brothels like most other countries. And we didn't really, at that point in time, go to a lot of really small, tiny trading outposts and have a global empire to maintain. So we didn't have ships all over the place or any reason to have large interests in an area. When the U.S. Navy got involved in prostitution and also the North and South got involved in prostitution, we're talking about the military guys in World War I, World War II, the Civil War. I mean, Yes, the military gets involved in prostitution, and in most cases, we very much frown upon it today, or at least that's the public image that we try to give. But then you look all throughout our history at how our governments do exploit women, and we will exploit men for those women to get those women. A lot of you who invested a lot of hate towards me because of slander against me, you're not expending that hate towards the people who are doing these things to people, who are actually doing these things to people. And that's also what happens when you play telephone. When you say something terrible about someone and they don't get to defend themselves, but you said something terrible about them, and then they're walking down the street, and, well, then they get assaulted for something they didn't even do, and they're going, what the fuck happened there? Well, one rumor turned into another, turned into another, turned into another, with a bunch of big mouths and busybodies who want to watch a bunch of crime shows and think that that is a realistic representation of crime and a realistic reputation of police work, and not even fucking close. Holy shit. You think the police are really going to tell you what they did wrong? Most of these officers are doing every power not to get those videos seen. And you have seen videos and pictures and testimony of people that the Boulder Police Department did that very same torture technique to me with that chair. They did it to others, but you know what? I also slipped out of it. The Pirates of the Caribbean, they did not have a shipbuilding infrastructure or a really a construction infrastructure. I mean, these guys had been builders most of their lives, because when you're on a ship, you have to maintain that ship. After a battle, you have to fix it. You have to be proficient at it. And you might have a captain who wants you to do the painting of the ship more often than usual, or paint it a different color in order to use subterfuge. So it's not like they can't do those things. You could have to repair stuff on the ship all the time. That's why you have a master of sails. Now, what's the difference between a master of sails and a master of sailing? Well, the master of sails is a civilian on board who is there to mend your sails properly and to teach others how to mend your sails properly, because after a battle, you might have to mend your sails. You're supposed to have extra mast sections and extra sails on board, but if those things get blown through with holes, you have to mend them, don't you? Oh my God, I'm sweating in here. It's hot as fuck and I can't breathe. So I'm gonna end this video. I have not gone up to get paper and get started on my other project yet because I am fucking beat. I went to sleep right after that instead of going up there, and when I got up this morning, I was like, oh my God, it smells like alfalfa and I can't breathe. Be safe.